Billionaire dad watches Waitress feed his disabled son and changes her life forever. A black waitress, exhausted after a double shift, spots a shivering boy in a broken wheelchair, alone, in the pouring rain. Without hesitation, she brings him inside, feeds him, and shows him kindness no one else would. But what she doesn't know is that across the street, a billionaire is watching her every move, because that boy is his son, and her small act of compassion is about to change her life in ways she never imagined, lifting her from poverty, throwing her into danger, and forcing her to fight battles far bigger than herself. Stay with me, because this is one story you will never forget. The rain poured down in sheets, drumming against the cracked windows of a lonely diner on the edge of town. Inside, a weary waitress named Serena wiped down the counter, her body aching after a double shift. She was about to close when she caught sight of something outside. Through the flickering neon lights, she saw a small boy in a broken wheelchair, soaked to the bone, shivering violently. His clothes were torn, his face pale. He looked abandoned. Serena's heart tightened. She could have ignored him. She was exhausted, hungry, and broke. But something inside her refused. She grabbed a blanket, rushed outside into the storm, and wheeled the boy in. That one decision would change her life forever. Inside, Serena wrapped the boy in a blanket and placed a hot bowl of soup before him. The boy's trembling hands struggled to hold the spoon, so she gently guided him. His eyes filled with tears, not from the heat, but from something deeper. "Nobody's ever done this for me," he whispered. Serena forced a smile. "Well, now someone has. You're safe here." She didn't ask questions. She only gave kindness. What she didn't know was that, across the street, inside a sleek black car, a billionaire was watching. His eyes never left her. The man in the car was Alexander Ward, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city. To the world he was cold, untouchable, feared. But tonight he wasn't watching a waitress, he was watching his son. The boy named Ethan had been living under the care of his aunt, a woman who treated him with neglect and cruelty. Alexander provided wealth, but little presence. And yet, here in a small, run-down diner, a stranger had shown Ethan more love in 10 minutes than he had seen in years. For the first time in decades, Alexander felt something stir in his chest, guilt. The next evening, Serena found Ethan waiting outside again, wheeled there by his aunt, Nora. But Serena noticed something disturbing. Nora's grip on Ethan's chair was rough, her words sharp. "Don't waste time with her," Nora snapped. "We don't need your pity?" Serena's instincts told her something was wrong. She bent down, smiled at Ethan, and slipped him a small piece of candy. "For later, just remember, you're not alone." From the shadows, Alexander observed. He wasn't ready to intervene, not yet. But he saw something that burned his heart. Serena treated his son with more love than his own blood. Days later, Serena's world shattered. At the diner, police arrived, accusing her of stealing from the register. The owner fired her on the spot. Customers whispered. Shame burned her skin. She pleaded innocence, but no one listened. What she didn't know was that Nora had planted the lie, hoping to drive Serena away before she could get closer to Ethan. That night, Serena sat on her apartment floor, clutching her last paycheck. She had nothing left, no job, no savings, no hope. And yet, she whispered to herself, "I'd do it all again, just to see that boy smile." The following morning, Serena's doorbell rang. A chauffeur stood outside. "Miss Serena, Mr. Ward requests your presence." Confused, she followed him into a limousine where Alexander Ward sat, stern and unreadable. "My son hasn't stopped talking about you," he said flatly. "He refuses to eat unless you're around. He calls you his friend." Serena blinked, stunned. Alexander leaned forward. "I want you to be his caretaker. Full-time, live with us. Salary, anything you ask." Serena's heart pounded. It sounded too good to be true, but when Ethan wheeled in, his face lighting up at the sight of her, she had her answer. "Yes, I'll do it." Serena stepped into a mansion so vast it felt unreal. Marble floors, golden chandeliers, servants everywhere. But she didn't care about the wealth. Her eyes only searched for Ethan. Day by day, she became his light. She read him bedtime stories, cooked meals he actually loved, and encouraged him to try walking again. For the first time, Ethan laughed freely. Alexander watched from afar, his icy exterior cracking. In Serena's warmth, he saw the mother Ethan never had. And though he would never admit it, he felt something he hadn't in years: admiration. But not everyone was pleased. Nora, greedy for control of Alexander's fortune, saw Serena as a threat. One night she cornered Serena in the hall. "You think kindness will save you," Nora hissed. "You're nothing but a waitress. People like you don't belong here." Serena's hands trembled, but she stood her ground. "If loving Ethan makes me an outsider, then I'll gladly stay one, because unlike you, I don't see him as a burden. I see him as a child who deserves love." Nora's eyes darkened. The war had begun. One evening, during a family gathering, Nora tried to humiliate Serena by claiming she was stealing money again. She even planted fake evidence. But this time, Alexander had been watching. He revealed security footage proving Nora's lies. Gasps filled the room. Nora's face turned pale as Alexander's voice thundered, "You will never come near my son again." Nora was thrown out of the mansion. For the first time, Ethan's world was free of cruelty. Months passed. Under Serena's care, Ethan grew stronger, learning to walk with braces, his laughter filling the halls. The mansion, once silent, now felt alive. Alexander, too, transformed. He no longer buried himself in cold business deals. He spent evenings at the dinner table, listening to Ethan's stories, sometimes even smiling. And Serena? She was no longer just a waitress. She was family. The heart that healed a boy, softened a billionaire, and silenced cruelty with kindness. Her life hadn't just changed. It had become proof that a single act of compassion can rewrite destinies. After Nora was gone, Alexander stood by his office window late at night, replaying Serena's words in his mind. "I don't see him as a burden. I see him as a child who deserves love." For years he had convinced himself that money could replace presence, that wealth could heal what absence had broken. But watching Serena read bedtime stories, hearing Ethan's laughter echo down the halls, he realized the truth. He had failed his son. And for the first time in years, Alexander felt not power, not control, but loneliness. While everyone believed Serena was growing into a new life of comfort, inside she carried a secret pain. Her mother had died when she was young. Her father had abandoned her, and she had spent her teenage years working shifts just to survive. That's why she connected so deeply with Ethan. She knew the pain of being forgotten. One night, Ethan asked softly, "Serena, why do you care about me so much?" She smiled, hiding her tears. "Because once upon a time, I wished someone cared for me. And if I can be that person for you, then maybe my past wasn't wasted." Alexander invited Serena to join him and Ethan for dinner. She felt awkward among the silver cutlery and golden plates, but Ethan pulled her chair closer. Halfway through the meal, Alexander asked, "What do you really want in life, Serena?" She hesitated, then said, "I don't want riches. I just want a life where kindness matters more than power." Ethan clapped happily, and Alexander leaned back, studying her. For a man used to deals and contracts, her answer disarmed him. The mansion's staff whispered behind closed doors, "Why is she here?" "She's just a waitress." "The billionaire is losing his mind. Maybe she's after his fortune." Serena overheard once, and it broke her heart. But she stayed silent because Ethan's smile mattered more than their judgment. With Serena's encouragement, Ethan began physical therapy. One rainy afternoon, after weeks of struggle, he managed to take a shaky step with braces. He stumbled into Serena's arms, laughing and crying at once. "I did it. I walked. Serena's tears fell freely as she whispered, "I knew you could." From the doorway, Alexander watched, his chest tightening. He had missed so many milestones, but Serena had given him back a piece of fatherhood he thought he had lost forever. One morning, Serena found a small velvet box on her nightstand. Inside was a delicate silver locket with a photo of her and Ethan laughing in the garden. There was no note, but she knew who had left it. Her hand shook as she closed it around her neck. For the first time in years, she felt seen, but peace never lasts. Nora returned, this time with lawyers. She demanded custody of Ethan, claiming Serena had manipulated her way into Alexander's life. The court battle began, with reporters circling like vultures. Headlines screamed, "Waitress targets billionaire heir." Serena's reputation shattered overnight. In court, Nora painted her as a gold digger. Serena sat silently, gripping Ethan's hand, her voice trembling when she finally spoke. "I don't want his money. I never did. I only want Ethan to grow up loved." The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge paused, her words cutting through the noise like truth itself. For the first time, Alexander stood, not as a billionaire, but as a father. "My son has found more joy in Serena's care than in anyone else's. If she is guilty of anything, it is of loving my child when others failed to." His voice broke slightly, and the courtroom leaned forward in shock. The cold billionaire had a heart after all. The judge dismissed Nora's case, citing lack of evidence and harmful intent. Nora stormed out, defeated. Outside, Ethan clung to, Serena whispering, "You didn't leave me. I knew you wouldn't." Serena held him tightly, her tears mixing with his. For the first time, she felt like she belonged, not in the mansion, but in someone's heart. In the weeks after the trial, Serena noticed Alexander changing. He joined them at the breakfast table. He walked Ethan to therapy sessions. He even laughed once. An awkward, rusty laugh, but real. And though he never said it, Serena sensed gratitude in his eyes. One evening, while walking with Ethan in the garden, Serena pushed his wheelchair over a slippery path. Suddenly, the wheels caught a stone, tipping. Serena dove, pulling Ethan into her arms just before the chair crashed. She scraped her hands badly, blood staining her palms. Ethan cried, "You saved me again!" From the balcony, Alexander rushed down, panic flashing across his face. For a moment, the mighty billionaire looked helpless. Later that night, Alexander found Serena in the kitchen, bandaging her hands. "You've risked more for my son than anyone ever has," he said softly. "Why?" Serena looked up, her eyes wet. "Because he deserves love, and so do you." The silence that followed was heavy. For the first time, Alexander's walls cracked. From then on, dinners turned into laughter, therapy turned into celebration, nights turned into storytelling by the fireplace. Serena wasn't just Ethan's caretaker anymore. She was family, and Alexander, though he never admitted it aloud, felt a warmth whenever she entered the room, like she had restored something money could never buy. Years passed. Ethan grew stronger, walking confidently with braces, graduating with honors. Serena stood beside him, clapping the loudest. Alexander had changed, too, no longer the cold, untouchable billionaire, but a father, a man softened by love. And Serena? She was no longer the tired waitress in a diner. She was the woman who rewrote destinies, with nothing but compassion in her heart. Her story wasn't about wealth or power. It was about love, sacrifice, and the truth that kindness can heal even the deepest wounds. On Ethan's graduation day, the auditorium was packed. Parents cheered, cameras flashed, and the atmosphere buzzed with pride. When Ethan wheeled up to the podium, his voice trembled but grew stronger with each word. "I was told I'd never walk. I was told I was a burden. But one person believed in me when no one else did. Serena, you gave me more than care. You gave me hope. And Dad, you finally gave me love. Today, I'm not just graduating. I'm proving that kindness can change destinies." Tears flowed in the audience. Serena wept openly, and Alexander clapped harder than anyone else. After the ceremony, an older woman approached Serena. She was a former neighbor from Serena's childhood, one who remembered how Serena's mother used to feed hungry children even when she herself had nothing. "Your mother would be proud," she whispered. "You're just like her." Serena froze, her heart swelling. For years she had carried the pain of loss. But in Ethan's smile, in Alexander's gratitude, she realized her mother's spirit lived on through her acts of kindness. One quiet evening, Alexander invited Serena to the garden. The air smelled of roses, and the moonlight softened his stern features. "I built my empire thinking money was strength," he confessed. "But it was you who showed me what true strength is: courage, kindness, love. You've given Ethan a childhood I couldn't. You've given me a chance to be a father again." Serena's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, Alexander's voice wasn't the voice of a billionaire, but of a broken man learning to heal. Soon after, Alexander offered Serena something she never expected: stay. Not as Ethan's caretaker, not as an employee, but as family. Serena's breath caught. She thought about the diner, the nights of loneliness, the cruel whispers. And then she thought about Ethan's laughter, Alexander's transformation, and the love she felt in this home. With trembling hands, she nodded. "I'll stay. Always." Ethan, who had been eavesdropping behind the door, burst in cheering. "I knew it. I knew we'd be a family." Years later, Serena, Alexander, and Ethan stood together at the opening of the Hope Foundation, a center for disabled children and struggling families. Reporters asked Alexander, "What inspired this?" He glanced at Serena before answering. "A waitress who showed my son kindness when no one else would. She reminded me that love, not money, is the greatest wealth." As the ribbon was cut, children rushed inside, laughter filling the air. Serena looked at Ethan, taller now, stronger than ever, and whispered, "See, one act of kindness can change the whole world." And with that, her story wasn't just a tale of survival or luck. It became a legacy of compassion that would outlive them all. Years after the foundation's opening, Ethan stood in front of a classroom filled with children in wheelchairs. He was older now, confident, wearing the same braces that once made him feel weak. He lifted his pant leg and tapped on them. "These don't hold me back. They carry me forward, and you can move forward too." The children clapped, inspired. Serena, watching from the back, felt her chest swell with pride. Ethan had gone from a boy abandoned in the rain to a man who lit the way for others. One evening, the mayor invited Serena to a city ceremony. She was nervous, never imagining herself in such a place. But when her name was called, the entire hall stood in ovation. They honored her for her extraordinary compassion that changed lives beyond measure. Serena held the plaque with shaking hands, whispering to herself, "From a diner waitress to this, all because I chose kindness." Alexander and Ethan clapped from the front row, their eyes glistening with pride. Later that night, Alexander took Serena to the same diner where it all began. The neon sign still flickered. The smell of coffee still lingered. He slid a small velvet box across the table. "This is where you saved my son's life. It's only right this is where I ask you to share the rest of yours with us." Serena gasped, tears spilling freely. She had never dreamed of this moment. But looking at Alexander, she saw not a billionaire, not a cold tycoon, just a man who had learned how to love. She whispered, "Yes." The wedding wasn't extravagant. It wasn't golden halls or diamond ceilings. Instead, it was held in the foundation's garden, surrounded by children and families whose lives they had touched. Ethan walked Serena down the aisle, his braces clicking softly with each proud step. When he placed her hand into Alexander's, the crowd erupted in applause. It wasn't just a union of two people, it was the joining of three broken souls who had healed each other. Years later, Serena sat on the porch of the mansion, now filled with grandchildren's laughter and the chatter of families helped by their foundation. Her hair had silver strands, but her smile was unchanged. Ethan, now a successful man and advocate, hugged her from behind. "You saved me, Serena. You saved all of us." She looked at him, at Alexander standing proudly nearby, and at the life they had built. Her eyes welled with tears as she whispered, "No, it was kindness that saved us. Never forget that." And with that, her story closed, not as a waitress, not as a billionaire's employee, but as the woman whose compassion rewrote an entire legacy. Serena's story proves one simple truth: a single act of kindness can rewrite a life, a family, even an empire. But it doesn't end here. Every time you watch, like, and share these stories, you become part of a movement, a community that chooses hope over despair, compassion over indifference. So, subscribe, stay with us, and together, let's keep changing lives one story at a time.